First step inside, take a seat, feel the magic in the air. Cards on the table, let the spirits take you there. Aeson's got the insight, Joe's teching up the show. Sip that truth, honey, let the mystic wisdom flow. Oh, ooh, it's the Sidekick Coffee Shop, where the vibes are high and the tea gets hot. Mystic minds with a little sass, talking life, the stars and shadows past. From tarot spreads to future sights, we're spilling secrets left and right. So grab your cup, let's take a ride on this cosmic caffeinated guide. Yun, ooh, it's the Sidekick Coffee Shop.
Good evening and welcome to the Psychic Coffee Shop. I'm Aeson Knight, and of course I'm sitting down with Lisa, who we originally sat down and had coffee when you released Psychic Reiki. That was like, oh, so that is why, like, my Reiki teacher was upset that I'm discussing bones and tendons. And like, no, back up. You can't go that deep. And it's like, yeah, I can. I'm not just talking anatomy. I can see the arthritis there in the bone. So, you know, and now you've got so many more out. Like, you've got the complete series going on. So what you been up to, Lisa?
Oh, I've just been writing a new book every year, seems like, and working on another one and just doing my thing, like, seeing clients and teaching people, teaching people Reiki, teaching people psychic development, just, the things.
Right. The things, the bases. Now, you're also a master psychic. How was your journey with that?
It was a pretty weird story, pretty wild and strange. Like, I was born in the 60s. So I grew up in the 60s, 70s, just outside Boston. And I was one of those I see dead people kids, Right. And back then there was just no conversation to be had about that. So I was seeing colors around people. I was seeing, angels and shadow figures and what I called the gray people. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and see the gray people around they're ghosts, I didn't really know that then, but, and of course, Murphy's Law, like my family house is this old Victorian house that looks like it could audition for a horror movie, and they put the psychic kid in the most haunted bedroom. Like, that's just how that, that's how that works.
That would have happened.
It's just, that's it. So,
right.
I mean, I was lucky that my hippie parents, like, didn't drag me to the church and throw holy water on me, but, they didn't know what to do. Nobody knew what to do. It's the 60s and 70s. My mom was like, oh my goodness, honey, you have such a good imagination, and I was like, am I imagining this? I don't think I am, So I was really just trying to figure out what the heck was going on and pretending to be normal in public,
Right.
That was
masking well. Yeah.
Then it was the 80s and I was in college and it was the dawn of the new age. Hallelujah. And all of a sudden there were psychics, there were new age bookstores, there were classes, teachers, and that's actually when I started working as a psychic. So I was 19 and it was back in the 80s.
Yeah. Did you have to
40
get locked
years
in a room for your first reading?
So you get locked in a room? No, is that what happened to you?
Oh yeah, my grandmother purposely double booked herself and locked me in the dining room and said, you do that one, I'll go in here and have tea with this one. And I'm like, great, Grandma, thank you. Well, you're 18. You've been studying. You've got your cards. Go to work.
Dang.
And that was mine. What was your first experience like doing a reading?
It was, I think, like, I was studying with a teacher. She was really good. And she had us, we were practicing with each other inside of a group. It was like a mentorship group.
Right.
And then she started taking us to these, like, new age expos, and it was readings, like, we were at a booth and it was $1 a minute or something like that, and I think I did like 100 readings the first day. It was nuts. And I would just stand, have people sit in. I'm like, I do better when I could touch people, so I'd have them sit in the chair and I put my hands on their shoulder and I would just say, ask me a question, because I didn't have a lot of time,
Uh-huh.
because it's, and
Right.
and just stuff would come to me, and then I see things, I sort of see, I feel, no sense. I'm mostly a visual psychic, but I would kind of get all of them, and I was like, all right, well, I just got to do this. And I think I had zero confidence going into that session, and by the end I was like, all right, maybe I actually can do this.
Yeah.
And that's still kind of how I work. I work more in a question based format, and
Yes.
if I can get my hands on people, that's great. Nowadays, I mostly do remote sessions, but
Mhm.
yeah, that's sort of where it started.
Yeah, and the session, for me, it doesn't matter the medium. Like if I'm video, if I'm audio, like phone, chat, or in person. I don't need the touch thing. Like the touch thing just, it's like, please don't. Um,
Mm.
but I prefer that question and answer too. Of like, ask me a question, I'll give you an answer instead of
Yeah,
just, oh, tell me what's going on in my life. And it's like, where are we?
I know. There's so much we could say there. Let's just tell me what you get about me. But I find that people are happier. Like, they have a question. I mean,
Yes.
sometimes they're just there for pure curiosity.
Hmm.
But most of the time people have a thing, they have a question, and I'm like, you're going to be happier with the reading if you ask me the question,
Yeah.
that you want. And
Yeah.
we're not going to, because your guys may want to talk about something that's not important to you. It's important to them. It's not
Right.
as important as the thing that's on your mind. So for me, it still works that way, question based. And because I'm a visual psychic, I have to work a little harder if I do phone sessions. I just need to like
Hmm.
listen to the person talk for a minute so I can kind of get connected to
Right.
their energy. But then once we had video sessions, I was like,
Hmm.
oh my goodness, that's so much easier for me.
Yes.
So yeah.
It is, and it's much funner because then you're able to actually, I think have a better reading with the video sessions. That's going to be our next wave.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Um,
Yeah.
and then hopefully we'll get the hologram in what, 10
The
years?
hologram. Right? That would be neat. Then you'd
Hmm.
really feel like, but then you'd have to like put your pants on, because I'm like, when we do video sessions, I'm like, I look good from here up, and the rest of it, I don't know. It's
Yeah,
not so
it's like
fancy.
pajamas, whatever. I have
Yeah.
a large collection of pajama pants, and it's just like, and then I have suits. Like I have one or the other.
Hmm.
Like public work clothes or home work clothes, and that's it.
Yeah. That's funny.
But that happens. So, oh, you can feel my Reiki 5 foot away. You can. But let's talk about that. Like, how did you get into Reiki? Did you go the Asui path or one of the others?
Hmm. Well, it's so funny because after I started working as a psychic in the 80s, I quickly learned that I didn't have enough skills to help people as much as I wanted to. So I went back to school and became a therapist. And for a long time, I combined psychic work with therapy, and that was such a great
Okay.
combination. And then in 1999, I learned Reiki. Back then, it was still kind of
Mhm.
fringy, like it wasn't as common
Right.
as it is now. And my Reiki teacher, I've studied, honestly, I'm a Reiki mutt because I've studied from so many different teachers that it's really
Hmm.
hard for me to track my lineage. I have had some really strong traditional Usui training.
Hmm.
Um, I've had one of my teachers was a student of Diane Stein, who's way more like, I don't know, she's got
Hmm.
kind of got her own vibe. And I studied with some people in the William Lee Rand School and Karuna Reiki. And after all the sessions that I've done over the past 26 years, I
Hmm.
just sort of do my own thing now, and I call that
Right.
psychic Reiki, like really
Right.
mixing the psychic with Reiki sessions. So people often ask me my lineage, and I'm like, it's hard for me to answer because I've had so many teachers over. I think I'm a mutt. I think I'm a Reiki mutt.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. I mean, because I've done your stuff. I've done Cherokee Reiki, which is interesting. I've done Usui Reiki, Rainbow Reiki, and it's like, and up into your stuff, for me, it was like, what are they doing? Giving these people Tylenol? Like, we're not good. Like, you can go deeper.
Yeah.
And so many of my teachers like, back up, back. This isn't. They kept calling it psychic surgery, and I'm like, I'm not taking any. Like, I have no scalpel in my hand. Like, I have no metal on. How can I be doing psychic surgery? And it wasn't psychic surgery. It was psychic Reiki, where you let your. Well, you explain the process because you've done it. You've created it.
Well, I think it's just a blend of, Reiki plus really like following our intuition and allowing our psychic abilities to inform us about what's happening in a session, And
Right.
to me, it just seemed like kind of a no-brainer because I was teaching psychic development, I was teaching Reiki, and I was teaching psychic development at the same time. And lots of my students would do both. And, Reiki really opens up your psychic ability. So we say yoga, Reiki, and meditation are the three gateways, the three openings for people's psychic to really pop open.
Mm-hmm.
So you get that Reiki 2 attunement, and all of a sudden your psychic's like off. Whatever you had, it's now twice that. And it's so useful in a Reiki session, right? If maybe you're talking to someone's dead granny, or maybe you're seeing a past life, or maybe you're like, oh, there's really like a ton of damage to this poor little heart chakra that you have. Like, what the heck happened to you? You have so much. Maybe you're an empath and you're feeling everything that your clients are feeling. Right. And to me, that just seems good. Like, isn't that a useful tool that we can use to help our clients? And when I started the Reiki in the 90s, and even pretty up until recently, like I published my book, The Art of Psychic Reiki, in 2018. And it was kind of radical back then. It was still, people were like, how dare you mix these things together, and yet so many people have had the experience you've had where they're starting to have psychic experiences in their Reiki classes, and their teacher just tell them to cut it out, like, that's not Reiki, stop doing that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's like, yes, it is Reiki. Yes, it is, this is my Reiki, this is my way of doing it. And a lot of them don't like it.
No, they don't like it. Many of them don't.
Mm-mm. And I think it's because that's not the original system, and that's cute. And thank you for being a traditionalist. And, we'll debate whether the white rose should be a white rose on every Fool card after we get done with this. But it's like, let the art grow.
I think it's meant to evolve. And it's not canon, it's not part of the traditional, as far as we know. I mean, who knows? Maybe it was, but it's not part of the traditional canon the way Reiki has been taught. And I think like lots of people want to stick to that. And I also feel like Reiki needs to evolve as we are evolving, And honestly, just between me and you and the fence post, I'm pretty sure what I'm doing isn't even Reiki anymore. I call it quantum healing because about 5 years ago, my healing shifted and I was like, I don't know if this is Reiki. It's like, it felt way more powerful. I felt like I ended up sort of lumping it into the quantum healing category,
Okay.
And quantum healing is like, if Reiki is a really beautiful vibrational healing technique. So vibrational healing uses vibration, and it's things like Reiki and acupuncture and sound healing and gemstones and crystals use vibration. And that works really good on the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, and sometimes the spiritual body, but it's a little harder for, Reiki to get into the spiritual body. But quantum healing uses light instead of vibration. So it's really quick. It's really fast. It really works out like kind of like a multidimensional. So sometimes people call it multidimensional healing, fifth dimensional healing, quantum healing. It's kind of the same thing. And I feel like it works across time and space. It's very instant. It can move a ton of energy really quickly. And I do these group quantum healings. I have sometimes, I think the biggest one I had 400 people in there. And, it's very channeled. So it's like a channeled healing.
Right.
And it seems to work so much more quickly. So I'll do 10 minutes of quantum healing and then like 15 to 20 minutes of Reiki to integrate that change. But it just gets right into the root of the issue. It's pretty cool stuff.
Very interesting. So with that, what's the different switches? I think that's the best way I can explain it. Or ask the question.
I know exactly what you mean. And it's a little hard because I think it has to do with our state of consciousness. you
Okay.
know. And like when we go into kind of fifth dimensional consciousness, when we become even more awake, we become even more
Mhm.
aware, it's
Right.
going to change, it's going to shift automatically, right? It's like we have, in order to hit that quantum field, that fifth dimensional, our consciousness has to get up there, our vibration
Right.
has to get up there, and then you're going to be
Right.
doing quantum healings. So
Okay.
it's difficult to teach it. Like I can teach, and I'm just about to teach a class on it, so I can teach people the techniques that I use, but they have to figure out how to shift their state of consciousness into the quantum level, into the fifth dimensional level, in order to actually do
Okay.
the healing. Does that make
So
sense?
it makes sense, but like Reiki is a soft, slow energy. Like you have to slow the pulse down for the body to accept the
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah.
Does quantum, you're not doing that. You're working on the guideline of the body.
You're working inside the consciousness. So we're kind of even moving out of the body and working directly with people's consciousness. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, and where's the book on that? On your desk?
It's
Yep,
in my...
on your desk, waiting for you to pick up.
Yep.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Let us know when that's out because I'll devour that. I'm actually on your site on the second copy of your book because
Wow.
the first one was dog-eared and like it looked worse than my college books. So
Oh my gosh,
that's
thank you.
awesome.
That's so flattering. Thank you so
It
much.
is. Well, it's so useful. It's a new idea, a new approach, a lot less limiting than than Usui traditional Reiki. Um,
Mm,
so with that, the quantum healing, you have the Reiki. You started working with empaths and working with healing
yeah.
them and helping them understand. How's
Yeah.
that going?
It's so great. I love it so much. I really feel like they're my people. You know what I mean? And it's
Hmm.
the psychics, healers, empaths. Those are my
Hmm.
people. And so many times, I mean, first of all, I want to say that all empaths are psychic. So almost all
Yep.
empaths really need psychic training. And it was also one of those things, like that word didn't exist when I was a kid, you know, when I was a youngster.
Right.
So I didn't really figure out, like, it was a huge relief, miracle, revelation when I figured out that that's what I was. And
Hmm.
I was like, oh, that explains everything. And that, you know, explains me to myself. And then there's things I can do to help myself, and opened a whole new world. It made my life so much easier. So I feel
Right.
really passionately about helping other people, you know, who realize
Hmm.
maybe they're realizing they're a highly sensitive person, they're an empath, and it's a life-changing thing to realize that. But I think then we need help. I
Right.
think we need to know some stuff after we've had that realization, and that's really why I wrote that book, Energy Healing for Empaths. Yeah.
Right. Because that is a whole different thing. Because not only are you trying to work on the soul itself, but you have to separate it and extract it. What is yours and what is the cold dirt you've picked up.
Yes. Yeah, so good. Such a great point. And I think we just need these very fundamental, psychic hygiene, like energy hygiene. How do we
Right.
manage our energy? How do we clear ourselves, right? How do we
Hmm.
ground ourselves? Because we tend to leave, like when things get dicey, you know,
Yeah.
halfway into Costco, I'm like out of my body, totally. Um,
Yeah.
and so we have to get back in. We have to clear the energy that we picked up from other people. We have to like double down on our protection. So we have to
Hmm.
really like learn the shielding techniques. And when we've learned how to do that, it's life changing. Like we can get off the couch and leave our houses and go do the work we came here to do. And I think it's a bit of a catch-22. We so want to help. We care. We are sort of
Right.
the healers of the world, you know. And yet doing that healing work puts us in the line of fire for
Right.
picking up energy from like you're going to go work in a
Yeah.
hospital, or you're going to have a private practice, you're going to read people's cards, you're going to do all those
Right.
things, and then we're absorbing all that stuff. And if we don't know what to do, we get sick, we have health problems, we have depression, we have anxiety, we lean a little too hard into addictions to kind of help us
Hmm.
numb ourselves out. And so it's a
Yeah.
tough road until you learn how to manage your energy.
Well, it is a tough road. And then you have, and that's not a lot that's taught in basic development classes. Like
Mm,
high impact cleansing, how impact, how to like
yep.
maintain your system,
Yep.
make sure that you're in a full operation to work, especially for like people that are doing the professional development level classes. They don't
Yep.
talk about that. They'll talk about cards and
Mm,
aligning energies and your perfect client and marketing and the tarot meanings and laws and regulations. Very little about
yeah.
self-care.
I start there. I start there with
Really.
with all of my classes. I'm always starting with energy management. Like let's
Hmm.
learn that psychic hygiene, like, and then after that psychic self-defense. So I make a little bit of a distinction between those two because like energy management practices is about taking care of your own energy, and then sometimes we need additional psychic self-defense as we open.
Yes.
I don't like to open people psychically without giving them really good psychic self-defense, because
Right.
as we become more sensitive, we need we
To pay
need
attention.
we need to know what to do. And I think like 80% of the time what we need psychic self-defense from or against is just the energy of other people.
Right.
Costco or your cranky in-laws or I don't know, whatever, all the things,
Right.
your clients. Sometimes it's the places we occupy, like,
Hmm.
Murphy's Law still puts me in the haunted hotel room or the haunted Airbnb every single time. I don't know,
Right.
just that's the way it goes, right?
It's
And
the way it
then
is. And it's like,
and then
I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to sleep. Go away.
I just want a good night's sleep, and because of that, I want a good night's sleep. I'm going to clear the space,
Yeah.
And then sometimes we encounter spirits that don't have our best interests at heart, like what's in the haunted hotel room, and
Right.
like I'll move them along so I
Hmm.
selfishly so I can have a good night's sleep, and also part of my community service work.
Right.
So we need some good psychic, and when you have good psychic self-defense, I think we can feel confident about opening psychically and feel like we're going to be strong and empowered, and it's going to be
Hmm.
okay.
Right. And have that level of confidence to power up and, do the
Yep.
work we do. And
Yes.
then be able to get up out of the chair, turn off the camera, turn off the phone, turn off the medium, walk in and not just collapse in the floor.
Yeah. Yeah. Like we
Yeah.
deserve to have healthy, happy, productive lives, to have a life for ourselves and not just to burn out from overgiving, which we might do anyway. If we're not mindful of our energy, it's so easy to burn out. But if we're
Hmm.
not doing energy hygiene and practicing psychic self-defense, we're definitely going to burn out.
Oh, yeah. It's a guarantee. You will burn out. You will end up in the hospital with the
Yep.
weirdest crap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
Because once it's on your psychic energy, it will manifest into your physical.
Yes. And it doesn't have to. So if we have that sort of
Nope.
daily cleaning,
Hmm.
and I think it sort of like sinks into, like, it starts in maybe the spiritual layer of our energy field, and then it's in the mental layer, and then it's in the emotional layer, and then it's in the physical layer, and then it's in your body. So
Right.
we gotta kind of deal with all of those levels, and then sort of like you get up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you take a shower, you do your energy hygiene, and
Yeah.
in the world is like a different place.
Yeah. It is. It's not that more intrusive.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you've got classes running. The websites are along the bottom here, running on the screen. Go check her stuff out. What else you got going on? Like you've got the workshop coming up here soon.
Yeah. I really love that. I wrote a book called Awakening Your Psychic Ability that came out in
Hmm.
2023 with a companion journal called the Psychic
Hmm.
Awakening Journal. It's more like a workbook. And I think that's really fun. It's straight psychic development,
Right.
how do we really begin? And even if we're already doing it, how do we advance?
Right.
And I thought that was a great um addition to the library. My library of books. I enjoy teaching psychic development so
Hmm.
much, and that book is it's an
It's
interesting
good.
perspective. I literally teach a map of the psychic worlds because I'm
Mhm.
pretty like orderly and structured for a psychic. I like kind of like a process, a routine, a structure.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, years ago, I started mapping the psychic worlds because there is a sort of when our psychic ability first opens, it feels totally
Mhm.
random. It doesn't feel like there's any
Right.
rhyme or reason to it, right? We're just like, I don't know what's happening, and it just,
Mhm.
I don't know. It seems like it's opening a door to chaos in a lot of ways,
Right.
but actually there is a structure, and so we go through the map in that book, and I found that for myself to be very
Right.
reassuring, made me less afraid. I'm like, okay, there's a structure to this. And if I know, I
Right.
think we need to learn kind of like where the astral plane is, how to kind of stay out of there unless you want to go there on purpose, because that's where all the trouble is. And,
Right.
if you want to connect to angels or ascended masters, you need to go up and not sideways out into the astral
Right.
plane. If you're doing mediumship or crossing over dead people, that's what you're going to do. But, you
Right.
know, uh, it's a bit of a dicey neighborhood over there. So we need we need to know
You need to know where to go and where to stay out of.
that's right, for
Yeah.
sure.
And then, working with Ascended Masters, that is an artwork that I think we do not have enough documentation on. I mean, we've got
Yeah.
Belaski's work, but, she was
Mhm.
just more talkative about it. We've gotten some other stuff, but not a lot of like enriched detail.
Yeah. I love the
Yeah.
Ascended Masters. They're really like some of my favorite guides to work with. I feel like they
Mhm.
have so much compassion for humanity because they used to be human. So they're,
Right.
they're just people like us who've reached enlightenment and don't have to come back here anymore.
Right.
Um and they're so, to me, so compassionate. Not that the angels aren't, but the angels have never been human, so they don't
Right.
understand humanity quite like the Ascended Masters do. And I love that. And I teach like a technique for getting to the Ascended Masters by going into your heart instead of like going up and sort of going outside of yourself. Just there's like a doorway inside your heart
Mm-hmm.
that for me
Right.
leads to them, and I think it's super cool to try that.
Mm-hmm. That would be interesting. I need to drop in on that class sometime. And then, okay, uh, you've got the quantum school. Is that still going well?
Yeah, so a friend of mine started me and a friend started this mystery school called the Quantum Mystic Mystery School. We just started our second year, so we're in it now for 2 years. It's really like a consciousness school. So like a lot of my work is about training healers, training
Mm-hmm.
psychics, healers, and empaths to really step into their gifts. I always say my mission in life is to create an army of healers to go out there and save the planet. And then somebody said to me, Lise, I want to study with you, but I'm not a healer. I don't really want to be a healer. That's just not my gig. And what do I do? And I'm like, oh,
Right.
that's a good point. So the mystery school is for people that want to do the inner work, to do kind of
Mm-hmm.
consciousness of expansion, to raise
Mm-hmm.
their consciousness to the next level, but don't necessarily want to become healers. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
Quantum Mystic Mystery School. It's been so fun. It's so enlivening to me, so enriching. Um,
Uh-huh.
it's had its challenges, that's for sure. I think
Right.
whenever we stretch outside our comfort zone and we do something really new and different and radical, it's always a little scary,
Right.
but super rewarding.
And it
Yeah,
is. And then we start stretching farther, and then it's like, oh, well, this is old hat now. Let's go try that.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think for me, it's like I'm changing and evolving. What I'm doing for
Mm-hmm.
myself, what's happening in my spiritual life, in my personal growth life.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, that's what I'm interested in, is sort of the cutting edge of my own evolution, my own spiritual evolution.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the next book I want to write, or the next class that I want to teach, is where my own growth is.
That'll be cool because then, your readers can compare where they're at. You know, like, okay, well, I'm here and you're over here, and you got from here to here by going left 3 times, or
Mm-hmm.
adding an extra 30 minutes of meditation with water aerobics to it that got you your mentalness there.
Right. Well, it's sort of like, I think walking in the path, walking in somebody else's footsteps can be really helpful.
Hmm.
And, I think people like, they're the kind of cutting edge people who are kind of forming the new pathways.
Hmm.
And it's just easier to follow them. You know what I mean? Like it's easier
Yeah.
to not have to bushwhack
Right.
your own path and to
Right.
go. I sometimes look back on my own life where for most of my life, especially my early life, I just felt so alone. You know what I mean? Like there were
Hmm.
no teachers, no mentors, no books in the library, no podcasts, no internet. Think about it. You know?
Yeah. That's
So I was like
already. And those are
totally,
experiences that the young psychics right now will never have.
yeah. Yeah. And I just felt like I was out on the skinny branches of, the tree by myself,
Hmm.
like flapping around in the breeze, like, what the heck am I doing? And now it makes me actually happy that there are so many more resources. Like um, it's so much easier to talk about being psychic than it was back then. It's so much, there's psychics on TV, there's the TikTok psychics, bless their hearts, and bless their
Yeah.
enthusiasm.
Bless their hearts.
and,
Bless their hearts.
and
We'll go with that. And I mean that with every drop of Southern blood I have, the amount of psychic cleanup I have to do. And yes, we're going to shop bitch for a little bit.
okay,
The
I'm
amount of
down.
psychic cleanup I have to fucking do when I get someone who has gone to one of them psychics that I really don't even want to call psychics. They do not have an attachment to them. They have no need of being attachment to them. Just because they sent $1,500 to somebody does not mean their ex is meant to return to the life or the path to be
Their
changed or
twin
the path
flame, their
to
twin
happen.
flame is coming back.
You
Yeah,
know, can we just like blow that term out of the English language, please?
please.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I like I said, God bless their hearts and bless their enthusiasm. Like I'm so glad that in one ways I appreciate them opening the conversation,
Right.
even to even more people. And I think there is just a serious lack of training or a belief
Yeah.
that you have to have training. There's a serious lack of ethics, like that
That's the bigger problem. Like
we need to
for
behave in a way
me,
that actually doesn't actually hurt other people. You know what I
yeah.
mean? You
Yeah.
accidentally or on purpose, like, we can end up hurting people when we don't have ethical guidelines lines and we don't have enough training.
And see, and that's something I would love to see occur. Like if we could get, I don't know, we could do it in the US, is like this is the amount of training you need from anyone to do this work.
Yeah.
Like it's more than go buy two books at Barnes and Nobles or off Amazon, read them, and then you're sitting down and doing readings for people, and you don't even know like your base plan, like how to even do it. Like get some training and real training from people that know how to do it.
Yeah, I've done so much cleanup work too, and I think people need
Yeah.
to realize that we have a responsibility for what we
Hmm.
say and the seeds that plants in other people, right? I mean, I
Right.
think there's a difference between the charlatans, the hucksters, fraudsters who would really actually just have malevolent intentions and they just want to take your money. And they're like, you have
Right.
a curse on your family and you have to pay me $10,000 to take the curse off. It has to be cash. And if you tell your husband, it's not going to work. Believe me, I've heard that one
What?
a couple of times.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I've heard that one daily, and
You
it's
know,
like, okay, curse theory, propaganda, curse theory in general. Okay, you must have pissed someone off bad enough for them to use their energy to do it. You B, they must still be living. So, three generational curse. Well, that's a very long time of a curse.
yeah.
Damn, you pissed off what, a 3-year-old?
Yeah. I know.
Yeah,
So there's like sort of the outright scammers, they're just trying to take your money, and they promise
right,
things nobody can deliver, and I'll find you
right.
your twin flame, and you're miserable. The fact that you're miserable is because you have a curse. It couldn't possibly be, the result of your own decisions. That's not a thing. So
Or the
it
trauma you're carrying along
or
and
the
not allowing to heal, or
oh,
the lack of self-esteem, or the bigger one, the non-treatment of a emotional, psychological situation that needs to be addressed, not by a psychic, by a psychologist.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
And so I think there are those, but I also think there's just a lot of well-meaning people who don't have
hmm,
enough training, and they don't really know what they're talking
right,
about. They don't really have a good metaphysical backbone, or they don't really like. I worked with this one poor lady. She took a class with a TikTok psychic who it was about the twin flame, so we're going back there. And she said, "Well, just do she had all of her people in her class do a binding ritual to bind the souls of their twin flames to themselves." And I was like, "Dude, you understand that's black magic, right?" And then her whole life was falling apart. Like everything was going wrong. She was a mess. It was a
uh-huh,
nightmare. A nightmare. It was so bad,
yeah,
like the worst train wreck ever. And
yeah,
she couldn't. She just had. She didn't understand that this basic fundamental metaphysical rule that doing anything against anybody else's free will is black magic. That's the definition of black magic.
right, right.
And she had no idea, none. And the person who was this teacher had no idea either.
Okay, so yeah, taking and throwing someone in your trunk and driving to a deserted home and keeping them there is just all well and good.
Yeah,
Okay, that's a
I
new
know.
one.
Yeah, that was a bad
Oh,
one. It took forever. I mean, it took like years to clean that up because it was such a
oh
mess.
yeah, yeah, and this is what people don't get when it comes to magic is it festers, either for the better or for the worse. And it's like, no, it's like putting a pot of spaghetti in the fridge. It's going to grow mold. It's going to start creating chaos in other areas of your life. It affects the flow.
Yeah.
That's why,
Especially
like,
if your
I no
intentions
longer
aren't
do a
clean, If your intentions
if
aren't
you're
clean, if your intentions are like shady, then I don't
uh-huh,
know, like that's going to come back
you're
on you.
going to get right, and
That's the
it's
law of
going to come
karma
back
right
on the
there.
practitioner. It's like
Yes.
I tell my audience, my baristas, don't tell me you need a job spell. I will tell you the recipe. You can go do it yourself. I have enough jobs because I don't
Mhm.
need one more. Hi, we'd like to hire you for such and such. I'm not the one that put out the energy for me to get a job, and it's not my targeting. It's the affecting of the flow.
Yeah. That's such a
Yeah,
good point. Such a good
yeah,
point.
yeah.
And it's these are kind of these fundamental like metaphysical, rules that like laws of the universe, basically. They're universal
Right,
laws that when we don't know what they
right.
are, we can just totally screw ourselves and other people too if we're not,
And
aware of
exactly
that.
the ripple effect. The
Yeah.
ripple effect. Yeah. So, how long did it take to fix? What, 3 years? One binding spell that,
Years.
and I
Years.
was,
Yeah, it's probably about that 3 years.
yeah,
One binding spell. Oh my God.
yeah,
The other one that I had to do that was really interesting, Aeson, was this lady who, well-meaning, didn't know that she really wanted to talk to her spirit guides, so she started collecting haunted objects, particularly haunted dolls. And I had to really
okay.
sit down and explain. She had the creepiest collection of haunted dolls. Couldn't figure out why her house was super haunted. And I had to really explain to her the difference between a haunting, which is like when there's a spirit that's stuck, sometimes a human spirit, sometimes a non-human spirit,
Mm-hmm.
that's not a guide. It's I get to
Right.
explain the difference. Like guides don't haunt things.
No,
Angels don't haunt things.
I
Your
think
old dead
no.
granny well, you're old dead granny. Maybe she's haunting something, but you know, the Ascended Masters, that's not how we get connection with our
Right.
guides, is through haunted objects. And she just really, that was
So did she
she
have
what a mess.
replicator where it does the same thing, or did she have actual spirit trap?
She was like going on eBay and buying haunted stuff, haunted objects,
Oh my
and then
god!
yeah, collecting haunted objects because she thought that was how she was gonna get her spirit guides to talk to her.
Well, if anything, it was going to be like, what the hell have you done? Why is there this many repaying
Yeah.
programs here? And what's the girl in the corner about?
Right. And yeah, she had some like human spirits, but she had some non-human spirits. We were talking about the astral plane. She had some really
Uh-huh.
malevolent lower astral entities.
Oh god!
It was
Her life must
super
have
bad.
been
It was
a
super
mess.
bad. It was bad.
Yeah. Ugh,
Yeah, I know.
that would have been insane. The amount
It's
of
just not.
holy
She had no
water.
idea. She just didn't. I couldn't help her. That's not really my. I sent her to somebody
Right.
I know who does that, but
Mhm.
it was a big old mess.
Oh yeah. Very big old mess. Very insane. Like I'm just looking at it, and going, "Oh my god, that would be crazy."
Haunted creepy dolls. Oh hell no! I'm so with you. It's just
Yeah,
not good. Yeah,
yeah, not
I
good
don't
at
know.
all.
But just
No
like a
thank
real
you.
miscommunication. She just didn't understand how
Right.
to get. She wanted to. She was coming from a good place of wanting to talk to her spirit guides, and you know. And I also think like, you know, we have to be really mindful about like where our energy is and where we're vibing from when we do psychic work.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like when we're kind of, you know, in a dark place, or we're depressed or anxious,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't have very good psychic hygiene, and we don't have very good psychic self-defense, and we open to the psychic worlds, we can, you know, that's when we're hitting the astral plane, or the lower astral plane.
Right.
The Ouija board takes you directly to the lower
No,
astral plane,
please, no.
right
Yeah.
straight there. and
And strangely, they will move away from me by themselves.
wow, that's because
I've
you're
had
a
one
badass.
literally break a window. No, I'm not a
Wow.
badass. Like I just don't put up with it. It's like I don't need to pay phone. Thank you very much.
Mm,
But
wow. Yeah.
like that's something I've had to make clear around Halloween is if I'm doing a personal appearance, no Ouija board should be in the house unless your home insurance wants to pay for a window.
Wow. So the Ouija board broke the window?
Yeah, it flew out the
Or the
window. They
spirits?
had it
Oh
on the
my God.
coffee table. They had it on the coffee table in one room, and I was supposed to come in and read another room. And so I come in, and all of a sudden, and I'm sitting up, not paying any mind, didn't know they're set up, hadn't done a walkthrough, and all of a sudden we hear glass breaking, and the Ouija board literally went through the window, shattered it, and was laying outside.
That's mental. That's really nuts. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So there's just it's been like that was the weirdest night ever. Like it was a great party, but the weirdest night ever. And they're like, "Oh my god, I didn't know that would do that." And I'm like, I didn't do that, but we're lucky it didn't burst into flames because they have been known to burst. Like Ouija boards will burst into flames if you get the wrong channel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of like I always say, like, don't do what you see on paranormal TV, like ghost hunting TV, because it's not very safe, you know. And they're
Or real.
it's either not real, or what if they're doing things like risky things like provocation techniques, or they're doing like even EVPs, you know, can be tricky. It's sort of like anytime you open the veil over and over and over and over again in a certain place, kind of opens a portal. That's what the Ouija board does, right? And if you don't know how to close that portal, if you don't know that you're doing that, you just open a big old portal that, like, I live pretty close. I'm in from New England, you know, so I live pretty like 10 minutes from the Conjuring house is that way, and then the Lizzie Borden house is that way, like 10 minutes. And I've been to the Lizzie Borden house. Who Lizzie Borden is, or is that just a New England thing?
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, I know who
Lizzie Borden.
Boyd is.
Lizzie Borden took an
Yeah.
axe, gave her mother 40 bucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so her house, when I went there was like so many ghost hunting tours. First of all, when I walked in, the first thing I saw was a Ouija board. And so many, it's like paranormal
Right.
tourism, and I think poor Lizzie, she's
Which
long
is the
gone, but
biggest.
she's long gone, but that house is so haunted and with super nasty stuff because of all the paranormal investigation that's going on there all the time.
Well, that and the continual, like, just looking at, like, we'll take Lizzie Borden's house, for example. Lizzie done left. The only thing left there is, like, some VCR tapes that'll replay. And then you start, like, calling extra people in,
Yeah.
and then it's like, okay, now we've got what? The guy from, like, I don't know, 1532 that was hunting a buck, and the buck stabbed him, and he decided he would hang out at Lizzie Borden's and play the dad for a little while.
Yep. Or you've got every ghost that's in a 5-mile radius, or in a 20-mile radius that shows up because there's so much paranormal, there's so much EVP and so many Ouija board sessions and things that are not guarded. They're just like, who's ever here? Come on, we want to talk to you. And they're all there. And I feel a little like, on one hand, like I have to say, like I love paranormal stuff because for me it always validated my experience and I just like it. And on the other hand, I'm like, don't do what they do. And we just need to remember that ghosts are people. They're not like zoo animals. They're not like, really here for our entertainment. Or a proper ghost, a real ghost is sad. It needs help. They need help. It's tragic. It's like a tragic event, They need help. They need our help, our compassion, our assistance, not to be like poked at until they do something interesting.
Are you there?
For the camera.
Are you there? Now, here's a question for you. Do you often have different paranormal experiences than what everyone else is having at these locations? Because, and here's an example. I used to go read at this location, and every time I got there, the housekeeper would greet me. You're in here, yada, yada, yada. FYI, the housekeeper's not been living for years. And, like, they will talk about finding children and all this, and I'm like, no. Like, there is no little girl on the second floor playing with a ball. The most that is here is the housekeeper and a few patients left over.
I often don't experience the same thing. I think a lot of times it's residual energy. So, people, or, I don't know if there's paranormal tourism going on. There could be anything. I've seen some crazy stuff. I've been like, well, it's not human. So what is it? It's some entity, some astral entity, or something else. Like, it's a wide old world out there. And I don't know, like, it can be all kinds of things, but I don't know. I often feel sometimes it's like one of the weirdest ones I did was this house, very, 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 very haunted. So much paranormal activity. Everyone who lived there was experiencing it. It was like an old frat house from the university that I went to.
Right.
Big state school, UMass, like giant state school. And this was back in the day. And really it was one of the people who lived there. And this guy was just super it's like lots of PK. So he was a a PK, or he just not a player killer in video games. He just had psychokinesis. So he had he was the one that was moving things around, and he had like, it was like a thought form. So all of his like rage, bitterness, angry, had a really rough background, was like had like coalesced into this like sort of a form of a monster, but it was really a part of him. And I knew it was because when I saw it, I could see it attached to him by a cord. And I was like, oh, it's this guy. And that didn't go down well. They did not want to hear that. They didn't, they didn't want to hear that.
Well, but that happens. I mean, most of the haunting, the come help me, my house is haunted, will have one of three things in it. either somebody that is very repressed,
Yep.
a medium going through either menopause and doesn't know
Or
that they're going
puberty.
through their, or puberty. And it's
Yep.
like,
The psychokinesis people.
mm-hmm. Which there's not a lot of documentation on that as far as like these are when your peaks are high.
Yep.
These are when
I want to say pregnancy too, having those spikes that we have in our hormones can be really like that and
jointly.
Yeah. Not just women.
Meaning not only the mother, the father. Like that connection is even weirder to look at. When it's like, nah, I'm fine. And the dad is like carrying this big old giant behind him, and it's like, why, oh, why? You know, like, okay, dude, we're going to have to sit down and have a conversation. You've been having cravings and morning sickness, haven't you? Well, yeah, but that's just sympathy. It's like, no, you're on that wife's vibrational level, and you're getting all the fun of it. And now you're having the PK.
Right. Oh, wow. Geez, I didn't think about that. That's cool.
Yeah. You know, because the physical manifestation is in the female body.
Right.
But if the couple is so connected, and what marketing term would be, you know, twin flames, and he's got empathism, he's going to take it all. You know, she's going to have a lovely pregnancy. He's going to be deathly sick.
Wow,
and going through
such a good point. Dang, that's a good one.
Yeah, I've seen it happen a number of times.
Wow, so fascinating. Love it.
Yeah, very cool. So what are we up to? What's your next class? What's your next book? When is it hitting?
Next class will be this quantum healing that I'm doing sometime this summer. Next book is called Sacred Reparenting, Spiritual and Intuitive Healing for Your Inner Child. I'm working on chapter 4, so it's going to be a minute. It'll be 2026 or 2027 before that comes out, and it's like about inner child work, and so much of the work that I've done on myself and that I do with my clients comes down to working with our inner child. I'm really talking about how do we regulate our emotions, how do we regulate our nervous system, how do we take care of truly love ourselves, and not just you should love yourself more. Well, okay, but how do we actually do it? It's for me, it's always been about inner child work. So it's a book writing year for me. It's kind of intense. I've been teaching on the Shift Network. So this January, I'll be teaching my 4th class for the Shift Network. Good.
What's that?
The Shift Network is a big online teaching platform for all kinds of metaphysical and spiritual, stuff. They have some of the best teachers, there that you can study with them. And I really enjoy working with them. They're super cool people.
Cool.
And I've been on the speaking circuit a little bit more too. So I've been out and about speaking at conferences and expos and things. And
you enjoying that?
I do. It makes me nervous. Like, it's always one of those things where I'm like, 5 minutes before I got on stage, I'm like, why did I say I was going to do this? And then I do it. And I'm like, that was awesome. I'm always really proud of myself when it's done. And I love connecting with people. So yeah, it's good.
Very cool. Very, very cool. All right, darling. Well, thank you for stopping by and having coffee with me. Y'all go check out her website. Get her books. Aeson required reading. She gets 5 cups on all of them. Like, she doesn't turn out crap. And if you can study with her, go for it. Most of the stuff is virtual. And I was looking, and you've now added classes that they can just auto take. Like, you register and the class is there. You don't have to wait for like the Reiki with abundance and manifesting money. You don't have to wait for her to fit it into her schedule.
Right. I have a lot of stuff, all levels of Reiki, all 3 levels of Reiki, tons of Reiki clinics. You can take them anytime. I have the healings, these quantum healings. I do them once a month. That's really fun to try that out.
And you've got your own podcast. Where can they listen to that?
Any place the podcasts are. It's called The Miracle of Healing, and I've been doing that since 2017. So I have quite a few.
There's a library there.
There's a library. Yep. And I'm over at the Empower channel right now. We're doing a lot of streaming, just like you are. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. All right, guys. You have a wonderful evening. I do want to take a moment and thank our Patreon. And that. Where are we? Sorry. I'm not usually the one pushing buttons, but thank you, Beverly Walker, Mika G, Brenda, Joan Owens, Shannon C, Shannon D, Lady Gwendolyn, Caitlin Bell, Devon, and Bella. If you want to learn more about supporting the show and getting the perks of the Patreon, please visit pcspnetwork.com. All right, guys, we will see you later. You guys have a great evening, and I'll be back Friday at 9 p.m. for Mountain Bears.
Buckle up, y'all. It's time to drop.